Hello beautiful people, you're welcome once again to my YouTube channel. My name is Bola. If you're coming across my YouTube for the very first time, you're welcome to the family. Kindly do me a favor before you go. Click on that subscribe button, like and share my videos. Thank you very much. And to my returning subscribers, oh my God, thank you for always taking out time to watch my videos. I am not taking any of it for granted. Thank you for the love you guys have shown me for the past weeks. It's so overwhelming. I really appreciate you all. Thank you and God bless you. Amen. So in today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how I achieve this quick fix short dress. Isn't it beautiful? It's a quick fix dress. Combination of two fabrics. You see the neck area and the bodies. I combined it with two fabrics. With the sleeve, it's a short sleeve with a ruffle at the edges. Then I attach my inner pocket to it. In making this dress, I don't think it should take you less than 30 minutes to achieve this design. Okay, so let us move over to the cutting table. Alright. So I have my fabrics on the table. I'll be cutting both the front and the back together. I cut out my fabrics using the biggest circumference of my measurements. I use the biggest circumference of my measurements to cut out my fabrics. So I folded the front piece into two, also the back piece into two. So for the back piece, I won't be adding zipper to it. So there's no zipper allowance on the back piece. And also there will be no darts on the dress because it's actually a free dress. Okay, so the first thing I'll be doing is to insert my shoulder line. So from my shoulder line, I'll be taking my bust measurement of 11 inches. From my shoulder line to the bust is 11 inches. From the shoulder line to the waist is 18 inches. I'm using 18 inches. From the shoulder line to the waist is 18 inches. So from my waist now to my hip, I'll be using 6 inches. From the waist to the hip, I'll be using 6 inches. So that means that from my shoulder to my hip line is 24 inches. Okay. So from the shoulder to the gown length, I'm using gown length of 42 inches. The gown length of 42 inches. So I'll be adding 1 inch allowance, hemming allowance. I'll be adding 1 inch allowance to the gown length. I haven't done that. I will quickly make those lines to a straight line. I'll use my ruler to make the lines into a straight line before we then insert the circumference measurement. Okay, I haven't done that. The next thing for us is to measure out our shoulder measurements. I'm going to take my tape rule to insert my shoulder measurements on the shoulder line. So the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 8 inches. I'm working with shoulder measurements of 8 inches. Shoulder measurement of 16 inches into 2 will give me 8 inches. Okay, so I'll locate my 8 inches on my tape rule. Then I will add ½ inch allowance to it. That makes it 8.5. I'll be adding ½ inch allowance. Okay, So the next thing now is to measure my armhole. From the 8.5 inch, I'll be taking my armhole of 9 inches. My armhole of 9 inches. I'll then use my ruler to connect together. So the armhole line now is now our chest line. So on my armhole line, I'll be taking my bust measurements. The bust measurement I'm working with is 48 inches. 48 divided by 4 will give me 12 inches. So I will note my 12 inches, then I will add some allowance to it. Because it's actually a free dress, I'll be using 2.5 inches allowance. I'll then move over to the waistline to take my waist measurement. The waist measurement I'm working with is waist 44 inches. 44 into 4 will give me 11 inches. I will also take the allowance. I'll be using 2.5 inches allowance as well. I'll move over to the hip line to take my hip measurements. I'll also be adding allowance as well. Okay, I'll then move over to the end of the dress. Whatever I have on my hip line, I'll be minusing 1 inch. I'll be reducing it by 1 inch because I don't want it to be fitted. I just want it to be a little bit free at the lower end. So instead of using my normal measurements I used on the hip line, I'll just go in by 1 inch. I will also add my allowance to it. Okay, so having done that now, the next thing for us is to connect the lines together. The next thing is to connect the lines together. I'll be connecting from the bust to the waist, then to the hip, and to the lower end of the dress. Having done that, I'll move over to the armhole to take my armhole. So I'll be drafting my armhole now. So in determining my front armhole, I will determine the midpoint of the line, of the armhole line. I will determine the midpoints. So at the midpoint, I will go in by 0.5. I'll go in by 0.5. I'll take my armhole cuff to connect together. I will also draft for the back armhole. I'm going in by 0.5 for the front armhole because I don't want excess fabric around that area for the front armhole, just for us to avoid bogginess around that area. That's why I'm going in by 0.5 in the front armhole. Okay, so the next thing for me now is to determine my neck design. I'll be using 4 inches width and 4.5 inches depth for the front neck design. I'm using 4 inches width and 4.5 for the front, and for the back I'll be using 2.5 inches for the back. So I'm going to connect. Okay, you can see the front neck design is ready and the back neck design. So the next thing for me now is to slant for my shoulder slope. I'll be slanting for my shoulder slope. Okay, before I slant for my shoulder slope, I'm going to determine the yoke for the front part, the yoke that I'll be cutting out for the front part. So at the middle point, I'm taking 10 inches, and at the armhole area, I'm noting 5 inches. So I'm going to connect the 5 inches at the armhole area to the 10 inches points I made. So I'm going to connect together to form a V yoke. I'll be forming a V yoke. I'm only cutting out yoke for the front part. I won't be cutting the yoke for the back part. I'm only doing this for the front part. Okay, so having done that now, the next thing for us to do is to slant for our shoulder slope. I'm slanting 1 inches for my shoulder slope. I'll then pick up my scissors to cut out. Okay. So I have cut out from both the front and the back piece. I've cut out for both the front and the back piece. You can see I've already cut out the yoke from the front piece, and I've traced it out on the another fabric that I will be using. Okay. You will notice that I added my sewing allowance. I didn't cut exactly the exact amount of fabric I cut out. I added 1 inch sewing allowance to it. Okay, so I'll be placing the yoke like so. So I'll be adding pockets to this dress. I will also cut out my sleeve. So I'll be cutting 4 of that. I'll add 2 to the front and 2 to the back. I'll be cutting 4 of that pocket design. I will then take my fabric to my machine to join together. So here comes the final look of our design.